Hi, Cornelia.
Hello.
I'm really glad that you've agreed to talk to me because I think you have some interesting things to talk about in your grey experience and your grey journey. And I wonder if we could start, in fact, with okay, if I could ask you a little bit about your work experience.
Certainly can. So I spent nearly 20 years in the steel industry. I worked with, so obviously it was very male dominated industry. And when I left the industry, I was CEO of a company that had an annual turnover of $250 million US. So fairly significant size.
I would say. And how long were you working in the steel industry with your Steely Greys?
I actually always covered my grey in the steel industry because I started going grey in my mid-20s in actual fact. So I found that at that stage a little bit difficult. I mean, I did quite well because my father went grey by the time he was 18.
Okay.
So I knew it was always going to come. And I have to say that when it first started coming, I was pulling the hairs out. So it was actually a better one to cover the colour rather than continue to do
Then
that.
and getting bald patches,
Because
yes.
bald is really not a good look.
It's not a good look and not for a woman, definitely. And as you said, it was very male dominated.
Yes.
And how did you find working amongst all these men? Did you find that you had to behave a certain way or not behave a certain way? Did you have to fend off constant, I'm not going to say harassment, but just sort of banter that perhaps you were not comfortable with?
There's always things like that going on. And I think that I found myself quite a good sort of middle ground that worked quite well for me. So I was my own individual. Yes, I will agree that I probably had a mask up as well just to protect myself against some of it. But I was very fortunate. I didn't suffer too much. I hear from my clients, so I work with lots of women now who are working themselves in male-dominated industries, and I hear some horror stories, to be honest with you. So when I hear those, I think how much better I actually had it. So it was hard, and I did have to fight quite a lot. I always had to, hold my own, which after a while becomes very exhausting.
And did you find that holding your own meant that you had to be perhaps better informed, better prepared for meetings, better presenting? Did you just have to be better than everybody else?
Yes, yes, always. Now, whether that was just my expectation of myself, but I definitely felt that I had lots of people, nipping at my heels, trying to sort of make me fail, and therefore I had to be so much better than everybody else.
But I mean, in fairness, I think that in any organization, be it male dominated or with men and women, there will always be an element of that, won't there? Because
Definitely.
competition is quite a natural thing amongst people, and people trying to undermine or unseat somebody else who is in power. It's quite common. I mean, it's not pleasant, but it is unfortunately very common.
I'm afraid so, yes.
Do, so what do you do now?
So now I work with women who have worked in male dominated industries or are in male dominated industries and want to get into leadership roles. I actually like to describe it as the fact that I help them to throw away their phone on holiday so they can actually enjoy themselves and still make an impact.
Right. So they
So
don't
it's
have
that
to be.
it's that work-life balance bit. We can spend so much time fighting for what we want in the workplace that all of the other bits get a little bit neglected. Relationships, family. You get families sort of complaining that you're not there on a
Yeah.
Sunday just when you're waiting for that whole week to work.
But do you find that these women who you coach, do you find that they feel that it's they have to do better again, and that's why they have the phones clamped to themselves 24 hours a day because their male colleagues maybe don't have to work quite as hard? Is that part of the whole?
It is part of it. It's that bit also of control as well. You don't want to lose control of what you're doing, so therefore you feel the need to still be part of it and just not let go of it, which obviously is not a great thing to happen constantly, if you're working for a number of years and feeling the need to do that every single holiday you go on.
Well, that's not a life, is it?
It isn't. And I have to say, there are plenty of pictures of me when I was working in the steel industry with my telephone clamped to my ear.
Right. But you mentioned that you continued to dye your hair because you were quite young when you started to grey. So was I. But did you feel you had to do that because it was all these blokes that you were working with, or did you just feel that you weren't ready to go and let your greys sort of appear?
I think it was perhaps not so restricted to the men that I was working with. It was more about society as a whole and how they perceive women who are grey. We have that thing of men who go grey are called silver foxes. It's positive, they're attractive, intelligent, they've got the wisdom of age and all this sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
And women that go grey frequently get referred to as having let themselves go. It's a negative thing. So I find the double standards, unfortunately, they're fairly common across the whole of life. But particularly for the grey, I didn't want to get into that situation where people are looking at me and thinking, oh, she's let herself go, she doesn't look after herself.
So why did you then? You mean when you were working?
Yes.
Yeah. So now that you're working for yourself, I guess, was that the time that you decided, now I can do whatever I need to do?
It came a couple of years after I came out of the steel industry. And I think it was a mixture of things, to be honest. It was a very slow journey, realizing that I didn't have to pretend to be anything that I wasn't. And part of that was my hair and other things as well. And it was also, I had a lot going on at the time as well. So I had a young child. We had building work going on at home. I was starting my own business. So all of those bits together as well, obviously, had an input into the decision. But I didn't do it immediately then. I thought about it quite a lot. And I actually went to the hairdresser and said, right, I've decided I'm going to let my hair grow out to grey. And they agreed that they would colour it so that it didn't notice so much, because it looks terrible when you've got the sort of the darker hair and then the silver bits coming through.
Yes, Cruella de Vil look.
Exactly. So they coloured my hair again, and I absolutely loved it. It looked spectacular. So I then went for another sort of probably a year or so with this different hair color, because it wasn't growing out at all, because I kept on going having the same thing done again and again. Yeah, because it looked so good.
Yeah.
And then after some time, I just thought, why am I doing this? Let's just, go cold turkey and do it. It doesn't matter, because if I keep on going and have it coloured, I'm just going to keep on doing that one, because it's sort of the path of least resistance in some respects. I would just keep on doing it. And so I decided just to go cold turkey, let it grow out. And I actually quite liked what came out the other side. So when all of my grey hairs sort of had appeared, it looked better than I expected it to.
Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful when it just gives you this crown of glory?
Absolutely. And the funny thing was that I've had far more compliments about my hair as it is now than when I had my dyed hair. I rarely had compliments now, but so many people now say, oh, your hair looks lovely. It's so many different shades, because I've got quite sort of a salt and pepper look going on.
Yeah.
And
well, that is the thing about grey, isn't it? That is what it is. It is a mixture of white and dark.
Absolutely.
And you don't know how it's going to come out. And you can spend a fortune trying to have highlights, and it's never going to look as good, because nature is a gift and it gives you something magnificent. Absolutely. I'm all for it. And so how does it make you feel about yourself now as an individual? Do you feel that you need to dress differently? Do you think people should treat you differently? Do you have any kind of...
No, No, I for dressing, I'm very pale skinned, so I've always had to be careful with colours.
Yes.
I have to be a little more careful with colours just because obviously having the paler hair as well, it can all sort of fade together.
Yes.
But as you can see, my
You're
favourite
very
colour
right.
is red.
Yes. And it
So
works.
it gives me a great excuse to wear more red.
Yes.
And so I like bright colours. So I haven't really had to particularly change too much.
Mhm.
Um, I I don't feel any different to how I did. This is me. I perhaps feel more true to myself. Perhaps that's the way to phrase it, because this is who I am.
And how does that make you feel, though, about being that more true to yourself?
I'm happy, obviously, because we all want to be a bit more true to ourselves, and it's that point of actually peeling away our masks and actually appearing to the world as we actually are, and not being afraid of it, and not making any excuses either.
But you've obviously had quite an experience, when you're working in such a male dominated industry and that whole work environment of constantly, you didn't say you were on your guard, but clearly there was a different vibe that you had to carry with you in order to succeed and excel like you did. And
Yes.
then bring now that experience to other women who I'm sure some of them are really struggling with the environments, because now a lot more people, a lot of women want to rise up, and they struggle because of so many reasons. What do you advise them about the fact that you're, let's call it a little bit of a metamorphosis, that you've come out and I mean, does the color of your hair ever come into it? Does the being more yourself ever come into a conversation with them?
It does to a certain extent, because many women feel as if they're almost invisible, and it's about helping them to become more visible, and that's through many different ways. And it's about building the relationships, it's about communicating properly, but also part of that is getting a balance. You need to have that balance between what you're doing for work, but also for yourself as well. And we frequently forget ourselves. Women frequently find that they're so busy doing other things for everybody else. They're working, the house, the children, all of these things, that we forget that bit, that we need to take time and think about what we actually want to portray and what we are.
And that's actually a very hard thing to do, to stop
It is.
and to give it consideration, because a lot of people think, well, it's so selfish. These people are so selfish. They're so busy, going off doing what they want. But actually, it's not being selfish. It's about allowing yourself to understand. If you just allow yourself to give yourself a moment to learn who you want, what you want to do in life, how you want to really be.
Yeah.
And when I speak to a lot of people about letting their hair go natural, let's call it that, they use things like "I came out," or "I've transitioned," or "I've," it's almost like a complete unfolding, because we're not covering ourselves up or pretending, right? Are we, that we're actually younger, or whatever it is, that the dye that our mothers and our grandmothers had because that's what everybody did. We're just saying, I just want to be able to continue and be accepted the way I am.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's a blessing every day we wake up. I find that I'm so blessed because I've got to the age that I am, and I think that's amazing. It should be celebrated, and we often look at it thinking, "Oh, we wish we were younger." I'm just very happy that I've got to this age with my grey hair
and doing well, and being able perhaps to share with others.
Absolutely.
And to share your experience and your wisdom, clearly, because that's what people come to. They come to you for your experience and your know-how.
Yes.
Well, it's been a blessing to talk to you, Cornelia.
Thank you.
I'm really happy that we got to chat, and thank you so much for agreeing to take part.
No problem at all. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.